The world of music was shaken when news broke about a frightening moment in the life of Andre Rieu, the beloved violinist and conductor often called the King of Waltz. At the age of 75, while touring in Mexico City, Andre suffered a sudden health scare that left both his fans and his orchestra in deep worry. For decades, he has been celebrated for his joyful performances, glittering concerts, and the magical way he makes classical music feel alive and exciting. No one expected that his strong presence on stage could suddenly be interrupted by weakness, fever, and collapse. As word spread, people across the globe were left asking the same question: how is Andre Rieu really doing? To understand why this moment touched so many hearts, we must look back at the long journey of Andre's life. From a painful childhood to a career that changed music forever, his story is not just about fame and success. It is about survival, heartbreak, healing, and above all, the power of music to turn pain into beauty. When people say try not to cry about his story, it is not only about his health struggles at 70, but also about the emotional path that brought him here. Andre Rieu was born on October 1, 1949, in Maastricht, Netherlands, into a large Roman Catholic family. He was the third of 6 children, raised in a home that was more strict than loving. His father, also named Andre, was a highly respected conductor of the Maastricht Symphony Orchestra, admired by many in public. But behind closed doors, life at home felt cold and distant. The young Andre later described his childhood home as silent, stern, and full of rules. He once said, "My parents didn't love me very much. That's not a feeling, that's a fact." Hugs, laughter, and comfort were absent. Instead, silence ruled the household. Friends were rarely allowed, and emotions were pushed aside. His mother was focused mainly on school grades and violin practice. And even when teachers praised him for his artistic touch, she did not take it as encouragement. To her, excellence was an obligation, not something to celebrate. Andre grew up feeling unseen, longing for warmth that never came. Yet, it was in this cold environment that music slowly became his lifeline. At just 5 years old, something happened that would open a new world for him and start the path toward healing through sound. The world of music was left in shock when Andre Rieu, the legendary violinist and conductor, suddenly fell ill during his tour in Mexico City at the age of 7. Fans who had watched him spread joy for decades could hardly believe that a man known for his energy and charm could be struck down by weakness. Reports said that he collapsed backstage, overwhelmed by fever, exhaustion, and the high altitude. For someone who had given his life to music and had always appeared strong in front of audiences, it was a heartbreaking moment. His orchestra, his wife Marjorie, and millions of fans around the globe were filled with fear about his future. The man who made classical music fun and exciting was now struggling with his own health. But this sudden event was not just about one night in Mexico. It was part of a larger, emotional journey that began long before the fame, the castles, and the applause. To understand why Andre Rieu's story touches so many people, we must go back to his earliest days. His life has always been a mix of sadness and hope, rejection and triumph, pain and healing. This latest health scare reminded the world that even legends are human, but also made us reflect on how he turned years of struggle into beautiful music that millions treasure today. Andre Rieu was born on October 1, 1949, in Maastricht, Netherlands. He was the third of 6 children in a Roman Catholic family. His father, also named Andre, worked as a respected conductor of the Maastricht Symphony Orchestra. On the outside, his father was admired as a man of music and discipline, but at home, things were very different. The Rieu household was strict, cold, and often silent. Young Andre later described it as more like a military training ground than a home filled with love. He once admitted openly, "My parents didn't love me very much. That's not a feeling. That's just a fact." Such words reveal the emptiness he felt as a child. Affection was rare, laughter was missing, and there was little sense of comfort. His mother was highly demanding, always pushing him toward better grades and more hours of violin practice. When a teacher once called him an artist, she even took it as an insult, because in her mind, being an artist meant being too emotional and not disciplined enough. In the Rieu family, perfection was expected but never celebrated. No matter what Andre achieved, it never seemed enough. He grew up with a strong desire for warmth, but he found only silence and strictness. Yet, in this cold environment, something remarkable happened when he was 5 years old. His parents arranged violin lessons, and his teacher, an 18-year-old young woman, changed his life. She was kind, graceful, and passionate about music. For little Andre, it was not only about learning an instrument, it was about feeling something new, something warm. He later admitted that he did not fall in love with the violin first, but with the way his teacher played it. For the first time, he felt the emotional power of music, and it planted a seed that would later grow into his mission, to make music that was full of life and feeling. As André grew older, his connection to the violin deepened, but so did his conflict with his father. During the Ijolulings, when André was a teenager, he discovered waltz music. Unlike the strict and formal classical music he heard at home, the waltz felt joyful, flowing, and full of movement. It spoke to his heart in a way no other music did. But when he shared this love with his father, he was met with harsh rejection. His father believed that waltzes were low class, shallow, and unworthy of serious musicians. He told André, "I didn't educate you to play waltzes." These words cut deep. For André, it was not only a rejection of his musical passion but also of his very identity. The clash between father and son grew stronger, and by the time André was nearly 20, it became unbearable. In 1968, the conflict reached a breaking point. André brought home the woman he loved, Marjorie, who would later become his wife. Instead of welcoming her, André's mother coldly told her to leave. She then turned to André and ordered him to clean his room, as if he were still a small child. That night, André made a life-changing decision. He left his parents' home and never returned. Even as he rose to fame later, selling out arenas and becoming one of the most beloved musicians in the world, his parents never attended a single concert. The wound from this rejection stayed with him throughout his life. He admitted that fame, fortune, and even castles could not fully heal the emptiness of his childhood, but music gave him a way to survive. He once said, "Only when I played did I feel seen." The violin became more than an instrument, it became his voice, his shield, and his salvation. Walking away from his parents was painful, but it also gave André the freedom to build his own path. At his side was Marjorie, the woman who would become not only his wife but also his strongest supporter. She was a teacher, a writer, and even a secret composer, often writing music under anonymity. While André dreamed of touching hearts with waltz music, Marjorie made sure those dreams had a practical foundation. She managed the finances, organized bookings, and helped him through times of doubt. When André considered buying a 15th-century castle but worried about the cost, Marjorie simply said, "Sell more records." It was not careless advice, but a reminder of her faith in him and their shared mission. Together, they worked hard, often starting from very small stages. In the late Ijolulings, André broke away from the traditional orchestras that felt empty to him. He formed the Maastricht Salon Orchestra, a small group that played in wedding halls and border towns. The pay was small, but the joy was real. For the first time, André felt free to play music in a way that made people smile and feel alive. During these years, André also began therapy to deal with the emotional wounds from his childhood. He openly admitted that his parents' lack of love left deep scars, and therapy helped him process that pain. Instead of letting bitterness consume him, he turned his wounds into motivation. He wanted to create a world of music that was the opposite of the cold silence he grew up with. His orchestra would be full of joy, laughter, and togetherness. It was not just about playing notes, it was about building a family of musicians and fans who shared in the warmth he had always longed for. By the late 1980s, André's vision had grown bigger than ever. In 1987, at the age of 38, he took a bold step. He disbanded his small salon orchestra and founded the Johann Strauss Orchestra, beginning with just 12 musicians. At the time, the idea seemed almost foolish to critics. Pop and rock music ruled the charts, and the classical music world was full of seriousness and tradition. But André had a dream to bring the waltz back to life, not as stiff background music but as a joyful celebration. Their very first performance on January 1, 1988, showed what made them different. Instead of stiff suits and silent audiences, the concerts had bright lights, colorful gowns, and smiling faces. Audiences clapped, laughed, and even sang along. For André, this was the future of music, an experience that made people feel free. Critics sneered and dismissed him as unserious, but André saw the spark in the audience's eyes. He once said, "I don't want to impress experts. I want to move people." With Marjorie carefully managing behind the scenes, the orchestra grew steadily. Year after year, they played larger venues, attracting people who might never have gone to a traditional concert hall. What started as a dream with 12 musicians slowly turned into a movement that would soon take the world by storm. The turning point came in 1995, during the UEFA Champions League final in Vienna. In front of more than 300 million television viewers and 50,000 fans in the stadium, André and his orchestra performed a waltz during halftime. At first, it seemed unusual to mix classical music with football, but within minutes, something magical happened. The entire stadium swayed, clapped, and even hummed along. Football fans who had come for the game found themselves swept away by the joy of the waltz. That single performance changed everything. Suddenly, André Rieu was not just a Dutch violinist, he was an international sensation. His album, Strauss & Co., sold more than 3 million copies worldwide. In Melbourne, he broke records with an audience of 38,000 people at one concert. His DVDs topped the charts, sometimes dominating the top 10 spots. Only global stars like Pink and AC/DC could compete with his popularity. From Europe to Australia, from football stadiums to concert halls, people were falling in love with André's unique style. He had managed to make classical music exciting, emotional, and accessible to all. With such fame also came criticism. Many classical music experts accused André of turning serious music into a circus. They mocked his theatrical lighting, glamorous gowns, and even the joyful atmosphere of his concerts. To them, classical music should remain solemn and dignified, not filled with laughter and clapping. But André never let those voices silence him. He believed that music should be about emotion, not rules. He explained it simply. You know that solemn atmosphere in classical concerts? That's exactly what keeps people away. With us, it simply isn't there. And indeed, millions of fans agreed. They did not see a circus. They saw music that touched their hearts and lifted their spirits. In Arlington, André went even further. He built a full-scale replica of Vienna's Schönbrunn Palace, complete with fountains and chandeliers, and toured with it. The cost was enormous, over 30 million euros, but the result was breathtaking. Audiences were enchanted, and for many, it was the most magical concert they had ever seen. By then, it was clear André Rieu was not just a musician. He was leading a movement that brought joy to people's lives through music. Behind the glittering concerts, André also faced personal struggles and health challenges. In 2010, he caught a viral infection that damaged his inner ear and affected his balance. For a violinist, this was terrifying. He had to cancel an entire tour, and for the first time, he feared that his career might be over. Later, in 2016, tragedy struck again when his close friend and trombonist passed away suddenly during a Christmas tour. Heartbroken, André canceled the rest of the concerts, saying he was family, that Christmas was filled not with music, but with mourning. Even in 2019, when he was suffering from a severe flu, André still went on stage, hiding his pain behind a smile because he felt responsible for his fans and orchestra. These struggles showed that André's journey was never as easy as the joyful concerts made it appear. But through illness and grief, he always returned to music. For him, it was not only a profession, but a duty, a calling, and a way to keep going no matter how hard life became. In March 2024, during his tour in Mexico City, André Rieu's body could no longer keep up with his demanding schedule. At the age of 74, he collapsed backstage, overwhelmed by fever, jet lag, and the effects of high altitude. He later called Marjorie in tears, telling her, "Don't want a first concert day like this ever again." For his fans, this news was heartbreaking. The man who had always appeared strong and full of life was now fragile, facing the reality of age and exhaustion. The collapse became a reminder that even legends are human, and that behind the music, André was a man who carried the weight of his past, his orchestra, and his own health struggles. Yet even in this vulnerable moment, there was something inspiring. It showed his honesty, his humanity, and his deep connection to the people who love him. Looking back at André Rieu's 75 years, his story is one of resilience and transformation. From a childhood without love to building an empire of joy, he turned pain into beauty. His music was never just about perfection or impressing critics. It was about creating moments where people could smile, cry, and feel alive. Through therapy, perseverance, and the unwavering support of Marjorie, he built not just an orchestra but a family, one that extended to millions of fans worldwide. His concerts are more than performances, they are celebrations of life itself. And even as he faces the challenges of age and health, his legacy continues. Fans who hear his music do not just listen to notes on a violin. They feel the story of a boy who grew up without hugs but chose to fill the world with warmth. The world of music was shaken when news broke about a frightening moment in the life of André Rieu, the beloved violinist and conductor often called the King of Waltz. At the age of 75, while touring in Mexico City, André suffered a sudden health scare that left both his fans and his orchestra in deep worry. For decades, he has been celebrated for his joyful performances, glittering concerts, and the magical way he makes classical music feel alive and exciting. No one expected that his strong presence on stage could suddenly be interrupted by weakness, fever, and collapse. As word spread, people across the globe were left asking the same question: how is André Rieu really doing? To understand why this moment touched so many hearts, we must look back at the long journey of André's life. From a painful childhood to a career that changed music forever, his story is not just about fame and success. It is about survival, heartbreak, healing, and above all, the power of music to turn pain into beauty. When people say try not to cry about his story, it is not only about his health struggles at 70, but also about the emotional path that brought him here. André Rieu was born on October 1, 1949, in Maastricht, Netherlands, into a large Roman Catholic family. He was the third of 6 children, raised in a home that was more strict than loving. His father